The first presentation is about connecting European Union for a sustainable future. Very interesting topic that will be presented by Head of Freight from Stena Line, Mr. Jakob Koch-Nielsen. So the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody, and good to see you all and good to be here. I'll be precise and swift, so I'll stick to the timing. Otherwise, give me a shout here. Was that the wrong way? Here we go. Connecting Europe for a sustainable future. Perhaps not the connecting the European Union, but we'll include. No problem. We'll include that one as well. But given the time available here, I'll focus on a few trends, which is also the topic for today, and try to sort of cover them briefly. Sorry, so by no means it's a full walkthrough, but sort of fairly high level. In our freight strategy, we have these and other trends or topics included. So from a sort of business plan and market perspective, we are fully aligned with the trends that our customers interact with us about. So that gives us confidence in what we do. We are on a journey towards our vision of connecting Europe for a sustainable future. And that is our overriding guidance in, I would say, everything we do. And in every sort of topic we deal with and foundation in our strategy, this is guiding us. And it holds a wide span of angles, not just the green transition, which is sort of the most obvious one perhaps, but there are also social dimensions, and there are, of course, also financial dimensions in creating a sustainable future. And these three areas, social, the green transition, so to say, and also the financial transition, must work in combination and go hand in hand. If they work against each other, it will not take us forward to the position we all want to be in, not just Stena Line, but us as a society as well. I think, in short, it's about taking care of today while preparing for tomorrow. So it's not a question about jumping fast and far into the future with sort of forgetting where we are. It needs to be taken step by step. And in order to do that, we have also structured our work around 5 key focus areas with roadmaps and follow-ups and sort of a way forward. So a structured approach is what will take us forward as we see it. It also includes creating new offers for our customers, and to a large degree in cooperation with our customers. So we're not here on our own. A clear trend in the market is that unaccompanied freight is growing. It's nothing new. It's been growing for many years, but it's growing faster. And it will continue. We see it across, I would say, all markets, some more than others, of course, but no market will be excluded if you ask us. And we have very tight dialogue with customers about it as well. So the trend is clear. And I think sort of the lack of freight drivers, back to the previous slide, social aspects as well, but also operational synergies are underlying drivers for this, call it, shift. Obviously, a big volume will still move as accompanied freight across Europe and across many corridors. But again, the trend is clear. And with the growth pattern we see now, it will, call it, stress our systems and put new demands on port infrastructure in the ports, around the ports. It will put focus on us delivering synergies to customers, allowing them to sort of get efficiencies of scale through hubs and so on. So I think it's in some corridors, it's a bigger shift than for others. but it's a question about preparing for it and being up for the shift. And also there, I think step by step is a good approach, really. But I think some other drivers are also part of it. The upcoming ETS charge, if you can call it that, or tax on emissions from the EU, will also put an accelerator on the shift, because shorter units will drive a lower cost of ETS and so on, but also allow for optimizing the transport chains and the shipping part better and differently, and thereby optimize also the costs involved. So this is a clear trend. Another trend is intermodal solutions. I think it's you can say it's on everybody's lips. Being in Warsaw last week at the fair, being in Munich earlier this year, intermodal is very much on the agenda. And back to the unaccompanied growth as well. We also believe that will continue. It's going at slower pace perhaps, but the trend is clear. It relates both to the unaccompanied growth, as said, but also to sustainability. So again, goes hand in hand with the topics or the dimension I mentioned earlier. We at Stena Line, we have a clear focus on delivering or developing intermodal solutions into our network, connecting inland points into our network, offering a wider geographical coverage for our customers. For example, Bedinburg in Luxembourg to Sweden through Rostock-Trelleborg, could also be Bedinburg to Sweden through Kiel, Gothenburg, or Italy up to Gothenburg through Kiel. Could also be east-west through Rotterdam to the UK from points in Eastern Europe. There's been trains from Poland, for example. So it's growing, and we are part of that, and we put ourselves in the driver's seat, offering the full package from terminal to terminal, including both the ferry and the intermodal part. It is an area that requires commitment and dedication over time, because there are some bottlenecks and hurdles on the way. The train stops, or there are rail track repairs there, here or there. But over time, the trend is clear, and it will only grow. And again, it requires the commitment and dedication. And we have that, and we are doing it very much, again, here together with our customers. We don't want to launch intermodal solutions that nobody wants. Lately, we launched online booking also for intermodal units. So our customers can do that in what we call the freight portal, which is our digital hub or digital customer interface. So it should be just as easy to book an intermodal unit as it is to book a normal, call it ferry-only unit. So that is out there. It's live. Go in and test it and make a booking. The digital customer journey is, I would say, also a trend. But is it a trend, or is it just something we strive at delivering? Perhaps a combination. So we have full focus on delivering a digital but also transparent customer journey across all touch points. Make or change a booking. Where is my freight unit? Did it arrive on time? When can I pick it up? Was it damaged when it entered the port? Getting my invoice digitally, my freight agreement, transparency on CO2 footprint, statistics on shippings, volumes, and departure usage. Well, there are many possibilities if you enter our freight portal, and it's only being developed more and more as we go forward. I think increasing the digital or increasing transparency using digital tools to capture data will only benefit us as well as our customers and our mutual cooperation. We used to say cash is king. I guess that's still true, but data is certainly also king going forward. And it's not a negative thing to prepare and help for more self-service for our customers. They can also choose to do it in other ways. We have several channels of choice, but more self-service when it comes to bookings, altering bookings, where's my unit and so on. I think it only benefits the total supply chain to take advantage of the digital solutions out there, be that on tablets or mobile phones or whatever. So we are reachable 24/7. And I think that is also part of capturing the, if not the trends, then the possibilities certainly in the market. I think making it easy for our customers to do business is another guiding star for us. We have connecting Europe for a sustainable future, but also making it easy for our customers to do business. And I think those two really creates a powerful framework for what we want to achieve. Within that, I think quality is the winner over time. And it will only become more important as we deliver more transparency, as we deliver more digital solutions and so on. Quality will be a foundation to stand on. I think that is what differentiates us as well as sets us sort of aside a bit from others, I would say, in the market. But I think over time it is the winner. Nothing beats good quality, I think. Not a trend, but perhaps more a statement. And I think we get good response for that. But again, being easy to deal with will only add value, I think, to the entire sort of cooperation we have with our customers and partners. And it also helps us to adapt and adopt the trends in the market. If we can do that in an easy way, then I think it will take us a long way, and making things easy can never be wrong as we see it. So summing up, these were some of the trends that we see and that we respond to. And again, we have them fully aligned in our strategic focus. So with those words and hopefully being within time, I would like to thank you for listening, and here with an image of our latest new building in the pipeline, Ro-Ro ship, what we call the new Max series. It will come into play 2025. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jakob. It was really a good presentation, and I totally agree that logistics should make the whole supply chain more easy for customers, and I really love it from the customer perspective. It's really crucial. So thanks a lot for the very interesting presentation. And our next speaker is Mr. Niklas Dahl, CEO from Oceanbird. Another fantastic solution, more from technology. The title of the presentation is Providing Wings for a Shipping Revolution. So we will hear this from Niklas.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Jakob, thanks.
So I really like ships, but you're missing a wing on it, for sure. No, so my name is Niklas Dahl. I'm managing director or CEO for Oceanbird, and I will come in a little bit on what we are doing. But this is not the real picture, unfortunately. But what we are working on is putting on wings on different kind of ships moving forward in order to reduce CO2 emissions and other environmental impact. Oceanbird is a company that was formed 2 years. In 1st of December this year, we are 2 years, and it's a joint venture between Alfa Laval and Wallenius. So we think we have a really good setup with an owner structure of Wallenius, who is a ship owner, and then of course an industrial company like Alfa Laval with service network around the world and working on more on the industrialization part. We're a team of around 23 employees today. We're hiring, so we have 5 more people coming in, and we are around 10 consultants, so around 35-40 people work full time with this. So I'm really proud of the team. I hope every manager think they have the best team in the world, but I'm sure of it. What we in Oceanbird do is that our vision is providing wings for a shipping revolution. We want to change the world. We want to do something completely different. And when we started up that, I mean, this started as a research project 4 years ago from Wallenius, and they started to look into this to have fully sailing ships. So of course, this was what we looked into. How can we reduce a lot on a few ships? So here we talk about fully sailing ships. And when it comes to fully sailing ships, then you also need to consider the hull. You need to consider a lot of different things. And if you want to change the world and you want to do that, it's of course great to have 4 or 5 new buildings in the world, but you also need to address the 50,000-60,000 vessel that is out there already today. So for us, it's also been very important to look how can we do even more from a lot of ships. And here we talk about wind assist. So in these cases, there is 1-2 wing sails on an existing ship in order to reduce CO2 emissions going forward. So then the big question, why is wind the right way forward? So as I see it, there is, of course, I think if you're going to do something really fast and from the environmental point of view, you also need to have a business case. So of course, reducing the operating cost is very important. Fuel prices have a tendency to really go up. There is a lot of discussions in the marine industry regarding new types of fuels, ammonia, methanol, and all of these kind of things, which is even more expensive. And of course, wind is free of charge. So that's a very, very good way to work with that. It's also zero emissions. There is a lot of focus now on CO2 emissions, of course. In the marine industry, it's also been discussion about NOx and SOx and other parts. And I think, I mean, from me personally, when it comes to this, it's very important that we don't put in a new environmental problem by solving the one that we have. So for the wind part, it's a completely natural way of pushing forward the ship. Reliability. This was the first one I started to challenge. I mean, how do you know how much wind it will be tomorrow? But actually, when you look into a certain route for a ship, we can tell more exactly how much you would generate from that for the ship. What we do is that we put it in a simulator for the last 10 years, and then you will see how much it will generate. And over a year, then it's not a big difference between the different parts. We don't know exactly tomorrow how much the wind will be, but over a year, you know very well how much it is. And I think it's also very important that this also open up for hybrid solutions. So when you talk about new kind of fuels, they normally need more space. So they take place from cargo. You don't know what the cost will be for them in the future. But if you then combine that with wind, you don't put all the eggs in the same basket, then you spread also your risk going forward. And of course, the future-proof part, that for the wind, you don't need to build up an infrastructure. Today, you need otherwise specialized tanks in every port. Are you sure that you can get that fuel? So in wind, you take with you and you harvest it immediately. So the wing sails that we have, they're very close to an airplane wing. So what you have is a main and a flap in order to create the camber part. So you basically create a lift force and a drag force. So you want to create as much lift as possible. And you see the person down there in the end. So there are really big wings that we're talking about. So 40 meter. We're sitting in a building outside Stockholm that is 12 floor, and that's exactly the same height as the wing. It's a coincidence. We didn't design it for where we were sitting, but that's actually the case. So what we do in the material part is that we have it as a steel and glass fiber. So it's a hard wing sails. And the core in between, it's a sandwich model. The core in between is recycled PET bottles that you have. And we are then rotating this wing 360 degrees to catch the right angle of attack in order to generate as much thrust as possible. And we take them down when there is no wind or when the wind is too high. So we are sailing up to 20 meters per second in wind, 40 knots. It's close to storm. So it's very, very high wind. And our philosophy has been that after that, you want to take them down. It's 560 square meters, so you want to take them down. And of course, when we go under bridges for air draft. This summer, we got the approval in principle from DNV. So we are really going through the phase now. Then it comes to this with the savings. Everyone is pushing for savings. And I really don't like to talk about percent, because you always can say, I can give you as many percent as you want. It depends on which kind of ship I put this on. So in this case, we take a big car carrier, 7,000 cars transporting. You put it on a quite favorable route, you would save around 7 to 10% fuel. And it's roughly around 600 tons of diesel, almost 2,000 tons of CO2 per year. So it's quite substantial. And this is for one wing on a ship. The way forward for us now is that we are building up in Landskrona. This is actually a picture of Landskrona Öresund dry dock. We are setting up the first land-based. We do one full-scale wing there. So it's actually been building at this moment. So we will do that during springtime. It's an important part for us. I mean, when we move forward now to learn how everything is working for assembly point, and also then later on to have crew coming there for doing training and so on. And then for us, the next step is that we are putting one wing on a vessel called Tirana. So that will dry dock in China in May next year. So then we will put up one wing on that ship. It's not exactly that ship, but it's very, very similar to that. It looks like that. So this is really, so we are now building up the two first full-scale prototypes. So we're really in an exciting mode for this. So just to give you a summary of, what we see. So the performance is quite high. So for us, the majority part is, of course, that we deliver high thrust and that we have the capability of the thing is with wind is that normally wind system don't like when the wind comes from the front. We can sail very close. So we sail up to 5-10 degrees from the bow and still generate force. And that's, of course, very important. It's like when you go with your car. It's very rare that you feel that you have the wind from behind. So, of course, the faster your ship goes, the more wind will come from the front. So that's where you want to be very good. Robustness and safety philosophy. So we have a passive system and we have a unique safety philosophy where we always take down. So it's a little bit like the airplane industry where we need to have plan A, plan B, plan C on how to get them down because it's a safety part for it. And I think also for us, we have a future-proof with a service organization and strong mother companies with really long-term perspective to look into this. How can we make sure that make this successful also in the future? So with that, I want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. It was about shipping revolution.
Yes.
Precisely, but now we will skip to aviation revolution, and Fredrik Kempfer will from Swedish Aviation Industry Group will give us a presentation about electric aviation will change the world. And with this question, we will leave you the floor.
Thank you. We start with a short video sequence from an event that took place in New York 2 days ago. Because after that, I don't have to say anything more. And I will not take too much time, but I think it was so significant that we should show it. It's on YouTube, everyone can see it. So it was an event where they flew with 2 eVTOLs, electric vertical takeoff landing aircraft. This is an American producer called Joby Aerospace or Joby Aviation. They will have this on the market in just 2 years, I think. And as you can see, it's flying in New York and performs very well. If you would hear it with sound, you would hear very little sound because it has not much sound. So you will see the audience being able to stand there, and it lands right in front of you, and then you can even speak in a normal pitch of voice. So if we fast forward a little bit, so here it lands, you can see. And here it is bowing to the audience for a nice presentation and is landing here. And as you can see, the people are standing quite close. There's no downwash as from a helicopter. There's also quite little sound. So I thought this would be a nice introduction to my minutes with you. So these things are actually starting to fly now, and I hope that we will see them much more. So let's turn to the presentation. But this was it was so fresh, I wanted you to see this, right? Yeah. So let's change the world, right? I think the technologies we have seen will also do that, but aviation is also changing a lot. Why do we change? We solve problems. We want to create new opportunities, and we want to change for the better. And I think that's very important. We're not doing this for any other reason but to have a better world. Sustainable transport, sustainable aviation is completely fundamental to the future world that we will want to live in, a connected world, an interconnected world. And aviation will play a big part of that, together with the other transport modes, of course. In February this year, this Flygplatsutredningen, the report on airport, was presented to the Ministry of Infrastructure. And I wanted to show you what the rapporteur had concluded in the last slide. So you don't have to worry about this, just go there. If the production of electricity is fossil-free and sustainable, electric flight is probably the most sustainable and climate-smart mode of transportation available. I did not write that. New thinking regarding the possibilities of aviation is required, however. So I think this puts really the frame around this. My group that I present is Swedish Aviation Industry Group. I work there with my 87 member companies with a lot of employees. And the good thing here is that we have the whole ecosystem. Because when we change the world, when we change the transport mode, you have to change the whole ecosystem. Everyone here has something to do with that and will have a task. And we will change a lot because we have to. We know about climate change. That's no news any longer. We also know that the society is changing for the better, I hope, but also we see bad changes. But we need to keep this globe together. The transport is changing quickly. We've seen some fantastic examples. And there's much more out there. How many owns a Tesla or an electric car today? I mean, 2 years ago, there was 1 or 2 in the audience. Now it's maybe 40, 50%. So aviation, of course, has to change with the society. We're taking a huge leap now because over 120 years, we sort of saw aviation as a thing that didn't change so much, at least not for us passengers. I mean, if you go to the engineer, you will say that it has changed a lot. But now, and from now until 2050, when we will have net zero aviation emissions, we have a lot to do in a very short time. And I think this is the same for other transport modes as well. So what we have in the middle here is sustainable aviation, and we're moderating different things to achieve that. And I want to focus here on the energy sources. We know about sustainable aviation fuel. We have too little from it today. We're not using it enough. Also, when we buy the tickets, we should. We have hydrogen. We will talk about that a bit later. And electricity. These things will fuel future aviation. And these things are emission-less. So if we look at 2035, that's not so far away. We will have to fly on a lot of sustainable aviation fuel. We will have a little bit of electric aviation, and we see hydrogen aviation coming up. If we now shift to 2050, net zero, the age of net, or the year of net zero, these proportions will change, in my estimation. We will still need sustainable aviation fuel. We will fly a lot more electric and hybrid electric, and we have definitely airborne aircraft with powered by hydrogen. So making sustainable aviation is not only making aviation sustainable, but you also change the world. You create new opportunities. New opportunities, new technologies that can really have the potential to change things from the very ground. And here is where we come to electric aviation. It exists today. I have flown one. I'm taking a license to fly. I'm expanding my own private pilot license next year to electric aviation. So it's not any longer science fiction. But soon they will be more frequent. Now you saw the film already. That's why I wanted to show it, because it's already flying in New York. But we will have also larger electric aircraft flying, electric, fully electric, or hybrid electric. And they will serve our needs in different ways, of course. And some will be full cargo, some will be passenger, some mixed operations. And some will go there to inspect things. You know, it's going to be quite an interesting journey together. So I say throttle up. We will see these things more and more in the air. This is a system which is already flying in some countries, has delivered over 200,000-300,000 deliveries to private persons in Australia, in the US, etc. It's coming, it's there. The aircraft, or the eVTOL we saw on the movie, is to be certified just in a couple of years. And the Swedish aircraft, Heart Aerospace ES-30, is planned to be certified in 2028. This is that aircraft. It's a member of my association, or mine, it's not mine, but our association. And it's interesting to note the benefits of this, but we don't have time to go into details. You will get the slides afterwards. First flight with a test model 2026. That's less than 900 days away. That's what's happening. Low noise, short runway operation, accessible from small airports, low fuel costs, low maintenance, good economies for small planes. Zero operational emissions, small footprint, scalable. What more do you want? Speed is definitely at the rate where we have now with turboprops. So you have that. And it's the art of connectivity, electric aviation. This hub and spoke system that we have today is basically because of the jet engine and the oil. It's an expensive fuel, it's very efficient, but we have to have big aircraft with big engines, and that's where we create the hub system. So you can't any longer fly like this. You have to go first to the hub. Electric aviation will change this. You will have a new era of connectivity between small cities. So you don't have to do that detour to get from A to B any longer. It's basically back to where aviation started, honestly. It's the art of simplicity. This is a jet engine, 25 to 45,000 parts. Electric engine, 100. You can imagine what that means in maintenance, in cost. This is a calculation about efficiency in terms of economy that comes from Heart Electric. They have an engine that costs unit price $30,000 compared to a CF34 turbofan, $6 million. So you can imagine the potential here. It's amazing. And not to forget that between two airports, just like the sea, you don't need infrastructure. So you save on that as well. So you have a system where we can deliver completely new benefits to the society, as well as in increasing and enhancing the present ones. We have an era where new transport combinations are possible, because when you do this, you can also get completely new variations. And these are, of course, drawings now, but think about the movie we just saw from New York. When you change and interchange this, maybe from a ship, and you lift this right up to the customer. We have a new system where we don't have to fly all the time to the big airports. So we can have a decentralized transport system in the air. And we can build cities around airports because you don't have any pollution and you have less noise. So this is what I started with, the statement: if the production of electricity is fossil-free, can be the most sustainable and climate-smart mode of transportation available. So yes, aviation will change the world. Thank you.
It was really interesting. Yeah, we are talking about sustainability and all those trends that are waiting ahead of us and in fact are happening. One for sure is AI, artificial intelligence. So the next presentation will be taken by Jonas Ehrenfeld, CEO of the Train Brain. Jonas will tell us how artificial intelligence can change the future of transport and logistics. So, Jonas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. My name is Jonas, and I'm the CEO of the Train Brain. We've seen some beautiful planes, some beautiful ships, and I'm not going to show you anything since we work with data and it's invisible. Sorry about that. We've heard a lot about freight. We've heard some about planes. I'm going to be talking about mobility, people transport. We are a Swedish startup company. We are a Microsoft software partner, and we are part of AI Sweden. We're a sustainable startup, and we build machine learning models from scratch in order to accelerate the transition to sustainable mobility. We're trying to use data as a means to accelerate the transition to sustainable mobility. In other words, to try to help solve one of the biggest challenges of our time, which is getting people to change how they move around. The transport sector is one of the key industries that need to change the way traffic is produced if we are to achieve the climate goals set in the Paris Accord. How do we do that? I think when it comes to behavioral change, we don't need to invent the wheel. It's the old, we use the carrot and we use the stick, right? So the problem is we're only focusing on the stick. And what does that mean? Well, there are lots of ideas on how to make cars less attractive, right? We have congestion tolls, we decrease speeds, we increase parking fees. We all know that, right? So there's no shortage of ideas on how to make life difficult for car owners. And I think that's a good idea, because we've seen some examples now on how a society is going to change. And with, for example, automated vehicles, we will be able to reclaim the city centers from the cars. We will be able to enjoy the city centers as humans. We will be able to use the space that is reserved for parking and do other wonderful things with it. So that's a good thing. So making life difficult for cars is great. Using the stick in order to make this transition work is a smart idea. But we also need to use the carrot. We need to make it more interesting and easier and better to use the existing alternatives for sustainable mobility. Because it's super attractive to think about future modes of transport, and they're certainly coming, but they won't be here in time for us to reach the climate goals. So we are super excited, I believe, all of us, about traveling in these orbs. That's going to be amazing. But we also need to think about time. We need to think about making this transition before the deadline. And that means using modes of transport that are available today, such as the bus, or the train, or the bicycle. So what is our contribution to this? We generate probabilities. Isn't that exciting? So when we think about AI, it's like a big umbrella. And under this umbrella, there are loads of different technologies. A lot of them are more exciting than what we do. In transport, we are usually considering scenarios where we have repetitive movement in a system which is more or less closed. You don't need generative AI in order to solve problems within that context. What you need is like a huge pocket calculator. And that is what supported machine learning is. The point of generating probabilities is that you can introduce automation in traffic production, such as real-time simulation or real-time optimization. And what you want to do then is to onboard new people in your organization, except they're not people, they're robots or machines, so that we can divide work. We can have division of labor between human and machine, where human does what human does best, and machine does what machine does best. Sounds pretty smart, right? But it's super difficult because we need to rethink about how we organize our traffic systems. We need to think about how we reorganize our organizations, our company. None of these ideas are mine. They're the ideas of my co-founder. His name is Willem Landerholm, and he's Sweden's maybe best known machine learning inventor. And he's around 200 models in production all over the world. So we've all used his models today when we've ordered something online or made a phone call, or if we call the ambulance. He has one model which positions out all ambulances in all of Sweden when they're on standby, so that they have the maximum opportunity to reply to a Category 1 call, so that we use our resources in the smartest way possible. So at the TrainBrain, we build machine learning models. So the first model, and that's what we publish as the TrainBrain, is about train movements. So we calculate in real time the risk of deviation from plan. What is the risk of a train not being able to fulfill its timetable? What is the risk of a bus not being able to fulfill its timetable in real time? So these are examples of predictive models. Will there be a delay in the future? What is the risk of that? What is the risk of, or probability of one person onboarding at station 3 in 30 minutes time? What is the probability of 5 people onboarding? What is the probability of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? What are the probabilities for all of this, or offboarding, or being on board? All predictive models. Our latest model is not a predictive model, it's an analytics model. It's about estimating all human movement. If we can understand all human movement door to door, then we can be better at organizing and orchestrating integrated mobility, where we divide up different tasks within, for example, an urban context. When it comes to integrated mobility, okay, taxi, you do that job. Bicycles, you do that job. Micromobility, you do that job. Buses, you do that job. Trams, you do that job. If we can understand demand, then we can reorganize supply. So these types of computations, these types of predictive models, they enable new capabilities, such as, for example, understanding knock-on effects. Okay, we've all suffered train delays. One of the reasons that we suffer train delays is that there are a lot of trains running on a limited amount of tracks. So each time we introduce a new train service, we will also increase the delay sensitivity of that system. In the UK, for example, 75% of all train delays are caused by knock-on delays, which means that it's not caused by a breakdown, it's caused by another train which is running late because of another train which is running late. And this cannot be understood by humans. It is too complex. But this is what the machine can do. Hey, machine, come join our organization. Help us understand these knock-on delays so we can mitigate them and stop these delays from spreading in the system. Okay, we want to reduce train delays. This can be done, of course, by building more tracks, but it can also be done by thinking about how we can use our existing resources, our existing infrastructure in a smarter way by dividing the tasks between man and machine. So how do we prepare for this revolution? We all know that AI is going to change all of humanity for all time. And it's, we compare this to Gutenberg's ideas, and we compare this to, the advent of the internet. No one knows how significant this change is going to be, but it's going to impact us all in a huge way. And I think, on a personal level, it's been, I don't know, I think it was in February that we were able to start, experimenting as individual people with building props for ChatGPT, and I think that's a great way to prepare as me. How many people here in this room are experimenting with prompts? Yes. All right. So about half of us. If you're not doing that, just go to openai.com and have some fun. That's a great way of trying to orient yourself. But what about the workplace? How does the workplace prepare for this AI revolution? Well, it does so on many different levels. It does so by understanding what is data-driven in an organization. It does so by understanding what AI gives us, by considering cultural aspects when it comes to embracing this change, and by understanding what value it does. And I think most companies or organizations have data problems. They do not have the sufficient infrastructure. They do not have the data quality. They don't have. They're not prepared for digitization, and they're not prepared for the future. This is probably what the biggest problem is. The other problem is, and I think the biggest problem would be understanding technology. A lot of C-level executives are not ready to embrace this challenge. This is not a technological challenge. This is not something for the IT department. This is an organizational challenge. This is for the CEO to think about. Okay, hey machine, you do that. Hey human, you do that. I think that's maybe the most important thing moving forward, that we think about this not as AI, but we think about it as automation and organization. That's it for me. Thanks a lot.
I mean, this was really interesting, but yeah, I even make some notes about train movements, because you are talking to logistics people, and we understand that the risk deviation from the plan, especially when we move cargo to ports, etc. So your solution, I think, also are related to cargo movement, because, for example, if you deliver the containers to ports, especially, I mean, I'm talking, for example, from the Polish perspective, right? When we have sometimes, much delays with cargo movements on the trains because of different deviations in the plan. So I think not only for humans, but also for cargo movement, I think it would be good to employ automatization and AI. Just before we start with the last presentation, I would like to ask the audience if you can think about the questions to the speakers. So after the last presentation, we will have like 2, 3, 5 minutes. We will see how many questions we will receive. So you can ask questions, and also to online audience, if you can, if you want to ask any questions to the speakers. We will also follow your questions in the chat, and we will ask them to speakers. So now we have on the floor, Christer Wickner, President and CEO from Metacon AB, another very interesting topic, very much present nowadays, the fuel for the future. And Christer will tell us about hydrogen, which is in the agenda, not only in Sweden, but also in my country, in Poland. So I'm really eager to hear that.
Thanks for having me here today. I'm representing Metacon, a Swedish tech company. We're very passionate about hydrogen as a solution for many of our sustainability problems in the future, and in particular, transportation, which is the focus of today. So I will give you a run-through of what we think about hydrogen as a solution for some of our very, very urgent problem that we have to solve. And it will be a little bit about trends in transportation, which is of course very, very important to monitor and follow. But we do believe, which I will try to explain to you today, that hydrogen is actually a major part of the solutions that we need in parallel with a few other technologies. So I will give you a bit of a background so you get the context and how we see life, how we see this. Explain a little bit about hydrogen as a tool for a clean future, in particular for transportation. Some examples and then my conclusion. So it will be my missionary speech basically for hydrogen. If we start here, this is a chart. I think it's quite interesting. We don't need to look at all the details. It is quite fresh. This is fossil fuels in the United States 2020. So it's quite fresh. It's not the world, but you can see roughly the distribution of fossil fuels when it comes to the source. And here we see that petroleum, which is of course oil, which is the bulk of what we are dealing with when it comes to transport, is a very large part of our problem, because our problem and what we have to solve is to phase out fossil fuels, right? If we look at where this goes, we can see that, I'm trying to fix this, we can see that transportation takes a lot of the petroleum, right? But it's even more interesting to see that if we can solve transportation, if we can make that clean, we have eliminated a large part of the fossil problem. Of course, there are other matters to deal with here. We have natural gas, we have coal, almost all of the coal goes to electricity production. But when it comes to transportation, we can solve a large part of our climate problem by solving and making transportation clean. So if we take a step back, why are we doing this at all? We have to understand that we are here for a reason. If there wasn't a real reason, we would still be running on diesel and petrol and gas as if nothing had happened. It's a perfect fuel, right? Somewhere in way back, our Earth developed so that we can live on it. We have an atmosphere that we can live in. Then we discovered oil and coal and gas, and we created enormous wealth and prosperity. We created the society that we are used to, but we also did it at the cost of threatening the future of our planet. Okay? So we need somewhere to get back to green again, to a clean energy and fuel future. And right now, I see it as a transitional period where we have to enable this green future. This is what we have to do. And then we have to accept a number of different solutions. We have to try different solutions. But I think for the future, hydrogen, sustainable batteries, and various types of e-fuels, that's my prediction for what we will have in the future. Okay, so what is the real problem? I think the real problem is that we haven't been able to formulate the right question. So what would be the right question for societies and governments to ask if we're going to make this transition? I think the question would be, how can we find locally produced fuels that are 100% clean and atmosphere friendly and offer exactly the same benefits for customers as petroleum-based fuels? So we can continue as if nothing had happened, but green and sustainable. Then change can actually happen and be adopted, right? So no problems for us as users. What we see is that hydrogen meets all these requirements. We can drive 100% climate friendly. We keep all of our behaviors. We refuel in the same principle as we are used to with petrol and diesel. Same refueling time. We drive the same range or longer. We have the same range in winter climate, no reduction of range. We can produce it locally ourselves. We can produce it from different sources, electricity or biogas, or I will show you some examples. And it also has the property of being able to store and transport very efficiently. So if you learn about hydrogen, you will discover that hydrogen has all requirements that we need on replacing fossil fuels, at least diesel and petrol, without us having to change, which is fantastic. So at Metacon, we want to contribute here by bringing technology to market for production of hydrogen. And we have all the drivers now. We have governments, we have targets, we have reasons for customers to change, we have the climate goals, and we see that there is a big movement towards hydrogen, but it's going to take time. So this is a journey we have to take step by step. Transportation is really benefiting from other use of green hydrogen. For example, in base industry, you all heard about green steel. Maybe you heard about green fertilizers. All these big green industrial projects, more or less, are using exactly the same green hydrogen as will be used in transport. So if we scale up production of hydrogen for these purposes, then transport sector will benefit from that, of course. Hydrogen will be cheaper. Green hydrogen will be cheaper and more abundant. When we look specifically at transports, we see some sectors that will come first. And here is an example of where we have participated in a practical installation. It's related to timber transports and a transport company who wants to transition to sustainable transports. And they made this analysis and they chose hydrogen because hydrogen enables them to continue exactly as they have done in the past. It enables their business to continue, but 100% green. So we have built production and refueling for them. We demonstrated this together with Volvo Trucks. Volvo has a fantastic program for hydrogen trucks. And also together with Toyota that has passenger cars. And I will show you some examples. What is interesting as well with hydrogen is that it's very versatile. You have different solutions for how to use it. Of course, this is early, but the solutions are there and they work very, very good today. BMW has a program now for fuel cell cars, also running in Sweden in some places. But you also see to the right, it's not only fuel cells, it's also combustion. So you're starting to be able to use hydrogen just like diesel or petrol. You combust it in a normal engine, so to say. So that there will be different ways of using hydrogen as a fuel in our vehicles, more or less exactly with the same properties as we are used to today. If you haven't been driving a hydrogen car, I recommend that you do it. So you get your own experience. This is a trip I made from Stockholm to Älghult in Småland. I sat in a car. It showed a little bit less than 35 Swedish miles, 350 kilometers on the computer in the car. But you see here, it was 400 kilometers almost to the end. I have nowhere to refuel in between. And they told me, well, just drive carefully and it will be okay. So, and I got in the car after a few hours of driving. This is where I had about 60 kilometers left. I had 150 kilometers left in the tank. So, and it was no problem. I arrived and refueled at our refueling station. So you can, if you do this, you can have a feeling for how well this works already today. The only problem is, of course, we have nowhere to refuel. But there are really good cars. This is a new one launched by Toyota just now. You see above 800 kilometers per 3-minute refueling, just as for diesel or petrol. If we look at refueling stations, China, of course, is leading, over 1,000 refueling stations. You can see in the middle, Germany, over 100 refueling stations. To the right, you see Sweden, and this is not actual refueling stations. We have about 5 or 6 today, but this is the plan within the next couple of years. So if these plans are materialized, there will be a much different situation for hydrogen driving within the next few years. Okay, so at Metacon, we wanna take old technology for hydrogen production to new local solutions. And that's why we have reformers and we have electrolyzers. So we enable different ways of using hydrogen as a fuel. We have demonstrated that. This is for electrolyzers down in Småland, where they have a wind farm, and we can produce local hydrogen fuel for this timber truck company, so they can produce their own fuel and run their business as they always did, not having to buy oil or diesel. Even more interesting, I think, is the ability to do this without electricity, because we're using biogas, ethanol, other fossil-free sources. And here is a project we have in southern Germany where, where we are placing one of these small biogas refineries, a reformer, on a wastewater treatment plant. So we're using the waste gas from a wastewater treatment plant to produce the same green hydrogen as we are talking about here for local use. So they don't have to import oil. They can produce their own green fuel without electricity. So there are many ways. Hydrogen is extremely versatile as a fuel. This is one of those small units that we are building, and we can see the potential, because here is a biogas map for Sweden. These are biogas plants. You can easily get the feeling for that. There could be refueling stations from locally produced hydrogen in many different places. So the potential is definitely here. Okay, coming towards the end here, I just wanted to illustrate that hydrogen is now in projects everywhere, in all sectors of transportation. Fredrik already talked about flights, aircrafts, but we have trains, we have construction machinery, heavy and light transportation, buses, we have deep sea shipping, we have short sea shipping. You know that perhaps that Gotlandsbolaget is converting to hydrogen for their ferries. So it's really coming everywhere, but don't think that everything is going to be ready tomorrow. This is going to take some time, right? Coming back to my original question, how can we find this locally produced fuel that's 100% clean and offers us to continue with the same behaviors? Well, you have already guessed, my conclusion is green hydrogen. Okay, because green hydrogen has all these properties. It allows us to continue with the same behaviors as we were used to from 100 years of oil. And we can produce it ourselves. We don't have to import it. And that's why I think hydrogen is the fuel of the future. Thank you very much.
Really extremely interesting, and I also can add that in the shipping industry there is a huge discussion about the fuel for the future, right? And many ship owners like, you know, Maersk, Hapag, CMA CGM, they are now building huge vessels like 24,000 TEU containers, and they are now struggling with the decision, what kind of fuel shall I use in the future vessel, right? So the hydrogen is the future. And yeah, they are thinking about green ammonia or methanol, and hydrogen is also on the table. So yeah, but we need time and we need the consistency, as you mentioned. So thank you very much. It was extremely interesting. Okay, so any questions from the public to our speakers? No questions, perhaps. Okay, we have one question. Magda, maybe you can add this. Thank you.
So yeah, Magdalena Ichedowicz, working for Hitachi Energy. Very much interesting in your presentation, obviously. I wonder what you see from your standpoint, how long it will take to build actually the infrastructure for the personal cars in Scandinavia, where we could actually fuel them with the hydrogen instead of another sources. Thank you.
So I think the question, do you hear me? Yeah, good. The question was basically how long time will it take before we can start to drive using hydrogen in more or less the normal way in Scandinavia? And I think you have a couple of data points on that. First of all, a new refueling station project, so to say, takes about 1 year, right? And then you need a certain frequency or a certain distance between these stations for it to happen, really, for people to being able to start to dare to buy a hydrogen car. It's just like when battery cars came. You didn't know if you dared to buy it now, because where should I refuel it? It's the same thing with hydrogen. So I would say if we continue our efforts now, our investments, that's in the plan, I think around 2030, we will really have the possibility for a sort of a hydrogen-based society. At least a decent part of the transport sector can run on hydrogen. That is roughly what I see. But we have to continue with these efforts now because of the lead times.
Thanks a lot. So any more questions from the public? Yeah, we have one question.
Hello, does it work? Okay. The AI guy, who was that? Okay. My name is Svante. I work for the Norrköping Airport, and regarding new types of infrastructure in the air, are there algorithms that you've been working around to optimize the new route network, so to speak, dynamic scheduling, that kind of stuff for aviation? Is that something you've been into?
I'm sorry, no.
Short.
I'll call you later.
Okay, so anybody would like to add something more, ask question? Do we have any questions from the...
No, not at the moment, no.
No, at the moment. So, okay, one more question.
Yes. I wonder, in shipping, when will these wings be on on the ships?
No, but so the first wing will be up for next year. So they are already now being produced and built. So we are putting it up on during next year. And then the fully sailing ship that is intended to go out in 2027. But between there will be also quite a lot of different installations. So it's really happening now. So it's not just a far-fetched in the future.
Thank you.
So we can now. So if you have any questions later on, of course you can write to the chamber and to the organizers. So we will try to answer all your questions. So now I would like to start the second part of our today meeting. So the panel discussion. So perhaps I will now invite our distinguished panelists, Mr. Bjorn Boström, CEO from Ystad Han Logistics. We have also Bartłomiej Mazuruk, Shipping Policy Director, Paul Ferris. Okay. Yes, we can have chairs. We have Jens Rosenqvist, Logistics Manager from Lantmannen. We have Jonas Wallén, Chief Commercial Officer, Port of Stockholm, Fredrik Hermansson, CEO, Lakeway Link, and Łukasz Grajcar, CEO, Emax Logistics. And I will have the role of the moderator, but yeah, do we have all? Yeah, we have, can I take this? Yeah. Okay, so I'm the only woman. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I'm the only woman. Okay, so yeah, we have contacted before, to be honest, because we have quite limited time, and we decided together that we will divide our discussion into 3 parts, just to enable you to get some overview on the situation, because we have limited time. So our first question and focus that we will try to touch upon, because we represent different perspectives. We have ports, we have logistics operator, we have clients, we have other organizations. So the first question is, what challenges are you facing now in quite turbulent times? We can agree on, because we are suffering from different issues. We have different challenges in different situations. So perhaps we will just go one by one, and each of you have circa 3 minutes for an answer. It's, yeah, unfortunately, but yeah, and I will be timekeeper. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, the biggest challenge right now is, to be honest, all the wars we have in the world, the war in Ukraine and so on, and the situation, what will happen in our country, Sweden, that has been a very safe country for a long period of time. But also it affects the transportation, of course. We don't know how tomorrow will look. Today it's more uncertain than ever. We don't know how the market will develop, and we don't know how, let's say, the governments around in Europe, in our case, in the port of Ystad, will handle the situations. We hope, of course, that the market will decide how the future will look, not someone else, not as like a planned economy, but the market, because the market has driven us to the point that we are today. But really, the worst thing right now is actually the war, and how long will it affect us in transportation.
Okay.
Thank you. I can only agree, frankly speaking. And with 2 minutes, it's difficult to talk about all the challenges from the last few years, because there was so many of them. Firstly was the COVID-19 period. As a ferry operator, the Paul Ferris has all the ferries which we have are the typical ROPAX. So it means that for us the important is both passengers and cargo business. During the COVID-19, we lost a lot of passengers. The traveling just for pleasure between Poland and Sweden stopped almost to zero. also due to the older regulations, restriction to the crossing the borders. Fortunately, that restriction didn't pass to the freight business. And after the COVID-19, as Björn said, still is, unfortunately, the war in Ukraine. And there was also a global problems like inflation, like the global crisis, and the decreasing of a number of trucks, number of shipments between Poland and Sweden, almost from the beginning. Firstly, due to the lack of drivers, over 100,000 drivers, which was employed by the Polish forwarders transport companies, came from Ukraine. So when the war starts, they go back to their countries, and they still didn't back to work. So in the first period, there was a cargo, there was goods to transport it, but there was no drivers. And for the next months, there was inflation, there was a crisis, and the Polish factories, which was before the natural base for the countries like Sweden, stopped to be attractive due to the rising the cost of production, the rising the cost of transport, etc. So I think that the main challenges in the last years.
Yeah, I agree with the previous speakers, but I would say that if we look into the pandemic period and the post-pandemic compared to the current situation, from our business perspective, it's been much more stabilized and normalized, I would say. So in that perspective, it's a better situation than if we look into 2 years ago. However, the demand situation is much more fluctuating due to the inflation and very much price focus right now in our business, which also affect the willingness to pay for sustainable transformation. I would say that's an impact we can see. If we look into more detailed perspective, and I'm mainly talking about the Nordics and mainly Sweden, I would say then our railway setup for this year has been terrible. It's not good enough. So if I look into one transport sector that has not worked as it should, then it's the railway setup in Sweden. And it's a lot of things you can say about that, but we need to increase that development both in the tracks by themselves, the maintenance and repairs by Trafikverket and all the operators, and also some point capacity in the railway solution. Because when it works, the railway setup, it's a very good way to transport high volume products that we produce. But when it does not work, then it's very unflexible and a lot of challenges to solve the disturbances in the railway setup.
Yes, the challenges we see is a little bit of the same thing, and being the ports of Stockholm being one of the world's biggest passenger ports with normally 60 million passengers, of course we have been suffering very hard from the pandemic and so forth. And now we have seen a bit of a decrease of volumes through our ports, basically driven by also that we are not building enough in Sweden at the moment. So we have a lot of building materials coming through our ports, and we see a downturn in those volumes currently. But we definitely see that this is a short-term problem. And when we look a little bit forward, long term, we our challenges is basically what we are going to focus on. We see a very high demand for transportation looking forward, also within new sectors with energy sources and other that will create some decision making that we are in the process of doing right now. So, but that's a more pleasant problems, I would say.
Thank you, Johan. Fredrik Hermansson, representing Lakeway Link. It's a startup. We're going to establish a new RoRo service between Poland and up to Södertälje and Västerås. And I would like to agree with the following speeches here, what they said, especially if you see the geopolitical things that we see with the war, not least. But also what we see facing here, it's what I see now as a startup, and we see the transportation mode as representing ferry lines and ports. It is important that we get the transport mode to be as cost efficient as we maybe see for the road transportation or the rail. And I think it is important here from a political point of view that we get the same possibilities to use the lakeway or the sea in a better way. We heard it in several speeches here that the sea is for free and we have the wind for free. So there's huge possibilities. And I think that is a difficult problem we have today, not at least in Sweden. If you see with the Swedish Maritime Organization, with fairway Jews entering the Swedish ports. And also, of course, if we see the new tax regulation that we have new within EU, then we have the EU ETS with the tax regulations. And I think that is very, very important. It's really good rules and regulations that is coming up. But it's very important that we get that equal. Today, you can go by truck all the way down through Europe and up to Sweden or vice versa without actually paying anything when you're crossing the Swedish borders. And I think that is a rather strange situation that we have up here. So I think we should use the waterways in a much better way, not only for the sustainability, but also for the best of transportation in the long run. So I think that. But in I will also like to mention when you establish a new company like I'm doing now, it's also to get employees, how to find the correct persons. And especially, I must say, down in Poland, that are facing big problems, maybe compare here up in Sweden. So that is one factor as well, that we need skilled people supporting the business within logistics. Not only that we need truck drivers, because we need them as well, and we need to train, etc. But there's more to do. So I think that is some of the challenges I see.
In 1990s, they said that history is over, and right now countries only will trade and discuss. Now we see that it was not true, and the world has speed up, and we don't know what come tomorrow. So I represent a Polish transport company who daily transport between Poland and Scandinavia. So the biggest challenge for us first is what my colleague says, lack of drivers. War of Ukraine show us that we have to look more on the east. So Kyrgyzstan, Georgia, Philippines, India is right now our target. It's a problem for us, to send driver from India to Bergen area who has never seen snow. So that's the clue. And the second big challenge for us is green revolution. And it was a great experience today to compare, let's say, developed society as our great speakers from Sweden with reality which we have in Poland as a developing country. You are talking about, you are making vessels with wings and electric planes. In Poland, who is the hegemon of the transport with the long-term trips. The biggest number, the power of this Polish hegemon is small companies with the fleet of between 2 and 5 trucks. In some of them, people still are hitting their buildings with the used engine oil. So we have a problem with education, and we have to teach people right now how important is our planet, our climate, and our environment. So this environmental awareness is right now a big challenge for us.
Yeah, very interesting things. I mean, from the client perspective, I represent the customers who buys logistics services. And yeah, you've mentioned production costs, and we are also facing this. And I think that finding the most cost-effective transport is now, yeah, honestly speaking, the most important thing. And I think one of you mentioned I even wrote it down, a willingness to pay for the sustainability transformation. And just to be honest, sometimes, you know, I talk a lot with logistics operators, and they, of course, offer some services with, for example, green tracking and, you know, black tracking, black diesel or something. So in the end, the customer decides for the cheaper solution. Of course, it depends, right? But still, some companies, I mean, the customers that are buying the logistics services, they are focusing also on the cost of efficiency, especially when they are alone facing the very high production costs. And, you know, sometimes they have to pay attention to each euro they can save on the transportation. So this is the true, yeah. You would like to add something? Yeah.
Very interesting angle you put on that, and I must say that it's so important as we're talking about the sustainability and the goals that we all have. But when it comes to the cargo owners, as you mentioned, because if you say the cargo owners coming out with their RFQs and tenders, but the majority of them go directly to freight forwarders. So it's actually freight forwarders who's pushing the transport company. So actually, where is the cargo owners and what responsibility do they take? And I think that we're challenging a big problem there, because it's very easy for the beneficial cargo owners to go out and demand, but not taking any responsibility. And I think that is what we have to start, where it actually starts. And that is with the cargo owners and their responsibility. So I think if we're going to make a change, it's have to start there. And I would like to see more of that when it's come to cargo owners, to setting up targets in their RFQs and tenders and in their procurement targets, because they're demanding a lot, but they don't actually, as you mentioned, following it up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, some of them demand. I mean, yeah, some of them demand. And let's say we organize some tenders, right? And one of, for example, we are searching for the shipping solution to transport our cargo somewhere. So we have kind of sustainability goals to track, for example, CO2 emissions, right? So we choose the ship owners that are tracking this. For example, this is only the example, but yeah, I totally agree with you that it's more connected with the cargo owner's responsibility also, just to be take this responsibility, you know. But yeah,
you know, all we have to remember that if the responsibility will be on the cargo owners, they will split it to the customers, right? So we have to be.
But this is the change
already
that
we have to be all the benefits as a society, that we take the price to, you know, prepare green service, right? Not only transport company will take it or cargo owner, because they will split it for the customers. If we are ready as a society to take the responsibility for it, so we have to educate everybody that you have to be, you know, prepared for this.
Education is one thing. Some, let's say, restrictions and regulations are also putting some responsibility on us. And also, I think one of the speakers mentioned that this is a kind of an ecosystem, which I really liked a lot, because of course, for example, we sell a product, and our customer, they demand from us some sustainability. Okay, so we have to go to our transport providers and ask them, for some sustainability solutions. Yeah, very interesting. And what about, we talked about challenges, right? But do you have any ideas, or do you take any steps and actions how to, let's say, encounter or face the challenges? Do you search for solutions? Do you take any steps?
Well, of course we do everything we can, but we don't have a crystal ball, and that's maybe the biggest problem we have. But I think one thing is extremely important. That is a word called collaboration.
Yeah.
Because we, as a port, we are dependent on a ship owner, that's depending on a forwarder, depending on a transport company, depending on a cargo owner. And to some extent, we do not collaborate enough to find the really good solution for the future, because we also have one thing that's called competition between us and between other ports and between other forwarders and etc. But of course it's very important. And just looking at the environmental challenges we all have, we can clearly see in our port when it's good times. Well, then one is more open for new environmental investments and so on. But in the worst times, well, someone have to save somewhere, and we can't always just forward all the investment costs on the cargo owner, because to some extent they will not be interested, because then it's not possible for them to survive. So yes, I think the world where we are really looking for is a bigger part of collaboration for the future, and to not maybe to know, but to be able to make a better guess what will happen, what needs we will have in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like Björn said, as a ferry company, as a ferry operator, we also can do all to increase the number of trucks and number of trucks, trailers of shipment between Poland and Sweden, because it's a global trend due to the war, due to the inflation. And frankly speaking, we are trying to do our best. We are finding the cargo on different markets, in different countries like Turkey, like Croatia, Bulgaria, etc. With some success. Frankly speaking, the number of cargo are slowly but going up, and now on our table is decarbonization. That's the main topic, frankly speaking, for the future, also in our companies. And in my opinion, frankly speaking, and I'm not talking it only because I'm representing the ships business, the ship business, the maritime transport is one of the most environmental friendly, if you're taking into consideration the number of units, the number of goods taking in one trip. And over 70% of goods transporting between the countries comes by the sea, and in the same sea transport is responsible for less than 13% of greenhouse gas emission from all other kind of transport. Over 70% comes from the road transport. But nevertheless, the ships are getting older and older, and we have to do something to meet the all regulation and the rules, EU, IMO organization, etc., and just to be more environmental friendly and more green. And now we have two projects, frankly speaking. First is to we will change one of our ferry in next year. We already signed a contract in last year with Italian shipyard Byzantini for a brand new ferry, which will come to the line and connect Świnoujście with Istad in next year. It will be green ferries, the engines with the LNG engines, with some electric support, with the system of saving the energy, etc., etc., with the shape of bow, which helps to reduce the fuel, etc. And the ferry will have 3 kilometers of line meters and possibility to take about 900 passengers in one trip. And the second project, we are also involved in the project of building a new ferries in Remontowa shipyards. And the first 2 ferries will be for the other operators, the Unity line. And the third with the 4 option will be for us. And the first ferry was launched in last month, I think, in Remontowa. So this ferry will be ecological. The engine will be for bio-LNG with electrical support, 4 kilometers of line meters, and we hope to replace all our old ferries for the new one.
Yeah, as I said, I think we have a quite stabilized situation, but based on due to the demand fluctuation, that's more traditional tools to work with, being close to the customers, together with our demand and supply planners and the sales teams. So be quite responsive to the market, the signals, and in some way be as flexible as you can be in the operation organization. We as you know, we always like standards and some kind of firm rules to work with, but try to be as flexible as possible within those under these circumstances. Yeah, I mentioned the train and to be honest, in the short perspective, to solve that issue is with trucks. That's we often get a late delay message, and then you need to replace the railway setup with trucks. That's for sure. Then I think we are in a situation from a sustainability perspective where there is no one way forward until Metacon solved the fuel issue to us. So until then we have a pattern of solutions right now, and I think if we look into the trends, I think in the midterm perspective, at least, we will see a diversity in solution and setups. We have not one setup for all the flows, so we will see a different kind of setups which fits each market or each flow or each customer segment, I would say. And then, of course, with the price focus, the ordinary be as efficient as possible in this situation is always valid, I would say.
Yeah, I think we look forward to being part of this shift for mode of transport away from very long road transportations and using the infrastructure in our ports for that matter. And I look forward to that journey that definitely will continue sooner or later. But apart from that, we see, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, new segments arising in this changeable world. We see from energy companies and new demands for transports that we haven't seen before. And there, I think ports can play an important role as hubs for this energy transition and distribution of new energy sources. We are in contact with many energy companies for windmills and so forth, and they need the ports and our infrastructure to distribute the new type of energies and new fuels that are surrounding that. So that's an extremely important and interesting way ahead. Apart from that, we also see a demand also from the energy companies of transporting carbon dioxide in a liquefied form, and there is a big need for doing that in our ports. About 9 million tons we are seeing the need for in only the Stockholm region that will need to be transported somehow, and there the ports will play an important role.
Not to repeat what's been said, because I think there's so many good things here. But I think when you're talking about the new sources of energy, I think when it's looking shipping, as was mentioned, it is that if you see the most environmentally friendly, if you see it as a total volume, what you can move by ship compared by individual trucks. And we talked about the truck drivers. I think that is a challenge we have. It's not only the fuel consumption, whatever fuel you are using, it's also the congestion on the road. And if you see the road and the infrastructure that we have today, it's not good enough for the future. And why I believe we also then have that we will see more, but also that you almost mentioned here, that we have to use the ports and only go for the last mile when it comes to trucks. And there's actually today very few people who wants to work as a truck driver. And that is, and it's rather natural. People want to get home to the kids and family in the afternoon. They don't want to end up in a poor restaurant along the roads. So I think that is important as well.
For us, the biggest challenge right now is education. Our eyes are concentrating in South Asia. We see that in those countries, there's nothing like mission, vision, or goals nowadays. Only the method is to create some 3 or 4 scenario and be prepared, because we have to know that chaos doesn't mean mess. Chaos is a method right now to survive, and we have to treat it as a challenge for us to be prepared, because we don't know what tomorrow will bring us. So the education of our team that changes in our companies will be more often than it was before COVID, because it's really hard to provide what will happen next year. They said that before crisis that pandemic and problem with inflation is impossible to be in some short period. So we see that everything right now is possible. So this is the biggest challenge for us right now.
Yeah, I mean, the last question is quite, perhaps we would like not to repeat ourselves, but the last question is about the future, right? Because now we have talked about how we try all together collaborate on some challenges that we are facing now. We try to predict unpredictable, but what about the future? We heard the presentation about AI, about the hydrogen, electricity, and aviation wings on the shipping. So what, in your mind, what do you think, what the future will bring? What kind of trends the future will bring? Yeah, it's difficult, but yeah.
Let's start over there.
Yeah, let's start with I mean,
what I say
this is interesting for the public.
Yes,
because,
sure. From my side, as a transport and logistics company, real-time visibility, automatization, digitalization. So lots of data, lots of information, and fast information. So we have to be prepared as a managers, as a management of the companies to react as fast as possible. AI also, because it will be connected, and collaboration, as Björn said. This is, in my opinion, the most important trends in logistics nowadays.
Yeah, I fully agree. But one thing when we're talking about estimation of time, like actual ETA or departure, I think it was rather interesting during the COVID how it actually worked. There was a lot of complaints that everybody was asking for the fastest transportation, so to say. But actually, when it's all happened, it's not a question of that. What everybody wants to know is actually when it will come, more or less. And I think that is important when we're talking about AI and other things here, to really make sure to set up when things needed. Because it's always been, logistics have always been the free warehouse. And that is very interesting as well from that perspective. So I think it's optimizing collaboration with the transport modes between them.
Yeah, I also think flexibility is going to be key here. We talked. Everyone has their solution for what type of fuel we will have. I think we all believe it's maybe a mixture of different, and then it's important to be able to supply that as a port at least. And I think that's going to be important. Something that we haven't spoken about is also the security. We feel that very much as a port now, that there is a completely different approach here in Sweden when it comes to these questions, and our industry is going to be affected as well, and how robust our systems are going to be, and that's going to have new impacts on what we do.
Yeah, and I think that the sustainability must be on every company's agenda, and it will must steer the decisions we are taking. That's one trend I think we all can agree on. The diversity I mentioned. Then, of course, I agree that the most easiest way is that we can, so to say, keep our current behavior. But if we will not fulfill the sustainability part in this, then I think we must open up for discussion to challenge some ordinary business model. To cooperate downstreams and upstreams in the supply chain, and look into the whole perspective, not a single company's P&L, to be able to fulfill the sustainability commitments. That might be a trend. It's a huge challenge, I would say. It's a huge challenge, so it's not an easy part. But if we will not have this $1 billion fuel mechanism, which will solve everything, then that might be a part in this transformation. Yep.
Thank you. Frankly speaking, the old trends in the also for the future in the ferry business was already mentioned by Jacob from the Standard in the beginning of the presentation. I can only say thank you and agree with all of that. I will add only one thing, which could be opportunity for us as a short shipping operator, which means the new sourcing. New sourcing is shortly saying the production closest to the customers. From the years we learned how to move the production to the countries when each the most profitable, and that trends focus to us to build a chain of transport, stable, good, but very often very long. And the situation from the last few years, like COVID-19 or war in Ukraine, or the local situation, like the blocking the Suez Channel by the tankers, show us that this long chain of transport could be broken immediately, from day to day. And that's why the new trends, new sourcing, so putting the production near to the customers could be opportunity for the short shipping operators like my companies.
I totally agree. Thank you very much. I think that the keywords are flexibility, collaboration, maybe some, I don't know if it's called dareness in English, but I think we have to dare to challenge the challenges ahead. We have to, and I will use a very old, worn-out expression. We really have to think outside the box once again, because no one will solve the problem for us. We have to do it ourselves, and that's the I think that's the most important thing. Don't sit in your office and feel sorry about yourself. Stick out your nose, maybe the whole head sometimes, but do it in a let's say semi-controlled way. Then things will start to happen. And collaboration, don't forget it.
Yeah, very, very interesting comments. I mean, I would like, I would like to add, maybe it will sound quite trivial for you, but of course, I think economy, right, also is very important. It wasn't mentioned here, but you know, when you have a demand, you have a supply, right? So this is the thing that we are, in a way struggling nowadays with the lack of cargo, ports and ship owners and some logistics operators. And I think this will be a kind of a struggle nowadays that is happening, and also access to raw materials in a way for a good, cheap production here in Europe. This is also a kind of a challenge for the producers, especially because I don't know if you know, for example, as for the chemical production, it's really shrinking in Europe and is moved somewhere to, for example, Asia, also because of some raw material costs and access to raw materials. And of course, I really loved what Jonas from the Train Brain mentioned, that data is the really powerful source. And I think the future, the faster we get the data and we will be able to analyze it and use it, we will master the market. I mean, this is of course my point of view. I think we are just close the timing, and just I enumerated some ideas that you all mentioned, and I think they are really fantastic, like data, fast information, real-time data, AI, sustainability, diversity on solutions, challenge the business models, near sourcing, flexibility, collaboration, and this, I loved it, dare to challenge and thinking out of the box. So yeah, so a lot of ahead of us. And of course, I hope that you will make some use of our discussion. If you have any question now to the panelists, of course, I think our panelists are ready to answer them. So anybody from the audience that would like to ask any questions?
First of all, thank you very much. It's been really interesting. The only thing I'm missing is the last mile transportation when it comes to autonomous vehicles, and them to do you guys at the ports or airports or whatever discuss with these guys who's doing this, like Einride, to build up hubs for this autonomous transportation, the last mile?
Because that is such a big thing. Now I'm representing then the ro-ro carrier or the shipping line, but I think that is more also for the cargo owner. But of course, when we promote the sea and coming in that way, of course, the last mile should go in a good way. Yeah, and then it comes into that, or by electric truck or whatever for the short money. Yeah. So and I think we will see much more of that to come. Yeah.
We also discuss as a transport company, I would say. Yeah. We also discuss with our Nordic partners that if they want that our process should be more green, let's say, we can offer right now that, because we specialize in groupage and part load service, that we can take care of this main part with the diesel truck, but let's say with HVO fuel in Sweden, but we will go, let's say, to Oslo terminal, and then our Norwegian partner with electric truck with a range of around 200-300 kilometers can make it with an electric car. So this is possible right now, and that's what we discussed with them to organize it more green, right? Without privacy. This is the future. Yeah. Yes.
And you don't have any.
Yes, true.
Yes, one more question. No.
No, I just said the problem with my air, and I have a logistical problem I need to address. I need to go home. But look forward for some airborne drones autonomously separated and flown for cargo of e-commerce density. Bigger things will be on trucks.
And even that's why fishermen from the beginning, And I know there's a project in Gothenburg, where I come from, right now when it comes to autonomous ships as well. So they're going away from this IAS to another way of have driverless ships even. Oh, you do? Oh, I would love to see that. And I can see that AI will connect all this and make it work.
We actually have that on cost.
Of course, yeah. And good. Good to hear. Thank you very much.
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions. Yeah, there is Magdalena from Hitachi Energy.
There was a question today regarding how we expect the sustainability being provided in the sector. So I have a question to all of you, actually, how your companies work right now with the sustainability, both within the company or AGC in the more a bit broader range, but also how you work with your suppliers, with the customer, to actually start pushing them into the more sustainable solutions and into the more actually safe procedures that you are placing yourself internally in your company. So I'm very much interested to hear how your sectors actually, yourself actually working right now. Thank you.
Anybody?
Yes, a very good question. Often, in my case, the ports never is told or asked, how do you as a port do with your environmental work? But many people are looking at the vessels coming into the port and asking, why do they not? And that's the port fault. In our case, the port business is not using any fossil fuel, for sure. So we are ready within the port business in our operations. We have already in 2012 opened our onshore power supply system, and that is used every day, amongst others, by pole ferries, and that is very important. Of course, not every vessel is equipped with the possibility to receive onshore power, but we are trying to force even pole ferries to make all of the vessels possible to connect to shore power. So we are really trying to do that, but we have let's say a problem in the ports because we have no jurisdictional possibility to force anyone to use shore power.
Okay, 2 from 5 our ferries already has a connection to the shore power system in the port. We are really planning that all our ferries will have that connection. Frankly speaking, it's not cheap, but we know that we have to do it. And with this sustainable transport and solution is like was said on before. The customers something expecting this, but no one want to pay for it. So some extras. Firstly, as I mentioned, we are changing our fleet. We are changing the fleet for the new, more green. But even on our existing ferries, which are, let's say, the middle-aged, we are using the low sulfur fuel. We have a system for recovering the energy, for saving the energy. The timetable and the route of our ferries are planned to use the less fuel and the same to have less greenhouse emission. And we do even the small things like LED lamps on our ferries, like changing all our equipments for the most electric safety, let's say, like dishwashers, like changing the standard cookers for the induction plates, etc., etc. So firstly, we want to change the fleet, but even on the present one, we are really trying to do what we can.
Yeah, and our owners are the Swedish farmers. We are very close to the nature, so to say, and of course the sustainability part is definitely a topic of our agenda. So we have targets on group level, and within the company I work with, we have signed science-based target initiatives. So a clear goal setting on that one. Actually, we are up into a transport tender of palletized goods, ambient, right now. So we will go for fossil-free there from 1st of Jan. So step by step, we're taking our company towards our sustainability targets, I would say.
Yeah, we have quite high ambitions also, as our owners are the city of Stockholm, for all our own operation. But as Björn mentioned, we are not allowed. We have to accept all vessels in our ports, basically, more or less. But we work a lot with incentives. So that being said, that we have quite ambition, so we can offer, let's say, rebate schemes on our customers that go further. And when it comes to the environmental impacts, and we can offer that to the customer to have an incentive for our customers to try to do more together with us.
Yes, as then representing a new shipping line, everything we do have to be top of notch, and we are not allowed by the board or to do anything, or the owners, if it's not the best equipment that is on the market. So, and I think that's actually go for all of us. If you see up here now that it's a game change. You can't establishing anything on this market up here if it's not the best. And especially if you're looking into vessel, it's we're talking at a period for 30 years, maybe. So it's of course we have to build vessels that should work for the long-term perspective. So that is very, very important.
I represent a company from the small and medium business in Poland. So it's not so easy to have a good policy right now, but we were working on it. Education is most important, as I agree, as Jens told us that it should be in all companies' agenda, and it's also in ours. But because of no infrastructure in Poland, no perspective to have, that number of trucks, we don't know. Electricity, maybe we'll wait for hydrogen. Maybe we will use HVO, which is still illegal in Poland because of low regulations. It's not so easy. We try our best, but it's really hard, especially in Poland, and especially with the small and medium business.
Okay, so any more questions from the, because we are just after timing. I don't know, Magdalena, from if you are satisfied with the, you organized the fourth question for the panelists, so you can feel like a co-moderator. Okay, so thank you very much for being here, and thank you online viewers also. Okay, so if you have any questions, just let us know.
Our chairman has left, so now the vice chairman is speaking. Please to do it. My name for you who are Swedish is Jerry Ralowski. For all of you who are Polish, I'm Jurek Rawowski. It's a little bit different, but mostly the same. So once again, very much thank you. Thank you to all of you who participated. Thank you to our great speakers, our panelists. Thank you to the moderator. A big applause for Mats Vara, who is our digital streaming facilitator. I have to train on that bit. It's not easy to say. Digital streaming facilitator.
Yeah, let's say digital facilitator.
Okay, our digital facilitator. A big applause once more. And also now we are moving, thank you to you who've been online. There is no more program online, actually. We are moving to the networking part here for all of you who are here in person. And there are still sandwiches, there is still coffee, and we have a special treat as long as it lasts. We have a privilege of being offered it's called sernik in Polish. It's a cheesecake. It's a cheesecake with meringue, and Mrs. Rogoza, Danusia Rogoza, is the one who has baked it. Danusia Rogoza, please stand up because you have a home bakery. And this is a gift to the chamber from you. This is just a sample. In the future, we hope to have your products at our every seminar. And I understand that you also offer your products to the public, so people will be able to order from you also. So, you know, it is really a treat. There are not so many pieces. You have to take the opportunity to do it quickly. And again, welcome to the networking part. Thank you very much.